Hello, hello. I've spent about an hour and a half on this painting this morning. Actually, this afternoon. I don't know why I'm saying morning. It's well past morning right now. And wow, I haven't painted like this in a while where I'm getting really detailed. And the thing that this takes, I was thinking about most, is for detailed painting, time is key. Actually, for any painting, I think probably time is key, but for really getting there into the details, the only thing that I felt like I've really finished today or got to somewhat close to a finish is this finger right here, and that's it. At first, it wasn't looking great at all. It looked like just a floppy thing. It didn't have any kind of form to it whatsoever. And so I looked at it and said, okay, well, how can I interject form back into this? And just really looked at the image and decided to really kind of enhance the top plane and side planes for this finger itself. And there's a lot of just really subtle transitions of value within this that I'm trying to get. Just really small painting. A lot of small little movements, honestly. And most of the painting session has been, oh, let me put this here, and then it doesn't go down in the right place, and then I say, okay, well, let me fix that. Let me put it in the right place now. And when working this small, I think, that's really part of the game. The one thing that I definitely want to make sure that happens with this painting is the difference in hue or actually it's more hue than temperature between the torso and the hand. In the image itself, the hand, and for most of our bodies in a lot of ways, our extremities, our hands and our feet, face, head, will have a lot more blood vessels at the end of your fingers, things like that, even in the hand, and you'll get more of a red kind of tinge to everything. Red is always on a nose. Noses are red, really red. Ears are red. Fingers, fingertips, knuckles, really red. But backs and things, maybe not. It really depends on if they've got a sunburn or, different anatomical things going on, right? In order for that to change. But for this image, I noticed that there was a definite difference between the hue in the hand, which is more warm. Well, they're both warm. The hue closer to a red, for the body closer to a yellow. So this is why I'm using burnt sienna and yellow ochre along with my white and Payne's gray. So burnt sienna mixtures, and you can see I got, a real separation between these two mixtures here. On the right, or this weird kind of shape here, is all of my yellow ochre mixtures with a little bit of burnt sienna all the way to the darker area with more Payne's gray in it. The more I get to the darkness of the body, the more I add in a burnt sienna to it. I don't want it to go completely to gray, although I take some of this gray here, I think it would work really well in places where you're transitioning from just about from light to shadow. Something about that change in temperature from warm to cool really is kind of this instinctive thing where we feel, that change in form. Really kind of want to push that. And then also something I'm noticing right here, a lot, illustrators do this all the time. I've seen this all throughout tons of illustration because it's something you see within shadows and reflected light, especially in the shadows, this is going to be my core shadow here. This is, when I say core shadow, this is the darkest part of the shadow area. But then, right after that, so we have a transition from light to dark, right? But we're in shadow, and closer to this other edge is some reflected light, so it lightens up a bit. So you'll get this kind of dark core, but then lighter on each side of it. And this needs to be a lot darker here. Yeah, and I'll probably push that a bit more later. But I'm happy with this finger. That's the one I worked the most time on. Really getting those transitions down, really kind of feeling out, you know, where I'm at within value, trying to get the sides of the finger to get that transition where it goes darker as, you know, the circle of the finger, or the cylinder of the finger transitions over into shadow a little bit, without it looking like it's being outlined. One of the, if you really want to flatten out something, give it contours, definite contours, kind of like if you were drawing a cartoon or a comic book, there would be definite outlines in your figure or whatever you're drawing. And you want to flatten that out. But also on cylinders, you know, any kind of cylinder that's lit from above or lit in a particular way, each side of that cylinder will have a gradation where the top of it will be lighter, on either sides will get darker. But there's this subtle kind of shift, the change in value that happens there, that is very important. So you have that change in value, but it doesn't look flat. So getting that right, the subtlety of that, the sensitivity of that is difficult. The main idea for this painting is I want to understand if I can connect sensitivity with simplicity. You know, as sensitive as I can with these transitions within the values, within the hue range, within temperature. Keeping the overall detail maybe simple, but also those transitions as sensitive as possible. So that's what I'm really trying to do. I feel like I've captured that in the first finger. I got a few more fingers to do, and a thumb. I feel like I've captured it there. And it's just taken some time. It just needed to really spend some time working on it to get those transitions as subtle as possible. I mean, honestly, the main thing that I'm spending the most time on is, besides those transitions, is the edges, which, you know, in and of itself are transitions, you know, from light to dark or into different hues. But getting those edges right and soft, I feel like, you know, for me, if I were to speak about sensitivity, or if I were to communicate sensitivity within the language of painting that I have, within this limited language that I have, it would be soft. You know, most of these edges would be very soft. So I want to capture that sensitivity. That's how I feel I can communicate sensitivity. So softness is going to be a big part of everything within this hand and within the body. And I'd like to contrast that with other places, like this arm here, which is in shadow. The body is casting a shadow on top of this arm. I think this would be a great place to remove all of that sensitivity as as a contrasting element, and keep it as flat as possible. Even in here, all of this shadow area, just flatten it out. You know, see what I can do with that. Maybe that'll work. I think it'll be a good or an interesting thing to try, definitely. It isn't like I don't have enough challenge for this painting right now. I need to add in more things, right? I got this. I can do it. Bring it on. And all I'm doing right now, this is, I'm not really fussing with this. I do have a small brush when I should be using a bigger brush for this. What I'm trying to do is just really fill, F-I-L-L. Oh my goodness, hard to say that word today. Fill in some paint in some areas here. Why am I doing that? I mean, I could totally leave that for later. One of the reasons why it's nice to do some type of block in a lot of paintings, you don't have to. You could work like Richard Schmid, just going for detail right away, right out of the box. And that would be just fine. It takes a lot of focus to do that, a lot of really extreme focus to work with detail right out of the box, or right from the beginning to the end. But one of the reasons why I do that is to kind of get an understanding of the entirety of the image. And I think I have enough there to do that. Maybe I would put some, like a darker brownish color for the hair. I just want to, just mask this in real quick. It's not a focus of the painting, but I have a lot of paint on my palette. Might as well try and use some of it to block in the last part. Give an idea of what's happening up here. Yeah, definitely. That's the last piece really of a block in. Very, very sloppy, honestly. I don't need that to be very detailed. I don't even need sharp edges to it. It can blend in with everything else. The drawing doesn't have to be exact. It expresses the idea of darkness up there, especially with this background here. I didn't even do the far right side. Maybe I don't even need that by the end of the painting. Maybe I'll just leave it as is. We'll see. We'll see how it works. But getting all that in so I can kind of understand how the entire painting's working. And so far, I think that's working well. The only thing I'd like to see, if I take some really bright white here, really brighten this up, because I'm feeling this in the photo. Right where these ribs are catching the most intense part of the light, I wonder if that will help turn this form a bit more. I intentionally really brought down the values with all of the paint that's up here, just so that I could bring in some lighter areas for those ribs. But the one thing I see with that is, again, edges need to be softened out a lot. Really sensitive, just sensitive kind of areas. Okay. I think that might be pretty good for today. I did some scraping with the palette knife to get the majority of some of this paint that I put down off so that it would dry a little bit faster. What I'm hoping will happen, is that by tomorrow when I start painting on this again, probably 12 hours from now, that this paint that I put down, these layers that I put down so far, will be tacky enough to almost glaze on top of them. I know I'll be able to pick up some of the paint that's already down there, but tacky are dry enough to a point where maybe I can use some medium or a lot of scumbling and a lot of kind of drier paint on there to show what's beneath a little bit more. I've always known that I've painted like that years ago, and that really added a lot of subtlety and sensitivity to things. So hopefully that can happen. Yeah, I think that's just about it for today. One thing I will say, there is a point in this painting where I was thinking, oh my God, what am I doing? And I'll talk about this while I'm cleaning up. There's always going to be, like some people say, an ugly stage of your painting. I've seen only very few artists that when they paint from stage one to end stage, from the very beginning to the end, does the painting look really good the whole time. And I think for those artists, a lot of them, it's important that the painting looks good throughout the process. For me, I don't really care about it. And I don't think many people care about it. But before you get to that, that kind of training, I think most of us mere mortals, are going to feel an ugly stage with a painting. Ugly as in, oh my gosh, this looks like crap. How am I gonna bring this around to what I want it to look like? Right now, I don't know where to go. I'm confused on the colors, I'm confused on the values, what's happening here. The drawing is off in that spot. This is looking kind of good, but for the majority of it, I feel like a terrible artist. And honestly, that was happening within here. I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm just laboring on this finger and it's not working. It's not working at all. My advice on that is just to be patient. Just continue to work it, put some time into it. Don't get frustrated. It's okay. It's part of the process. Even if 90% of the paintings you do, they look great from beginning to end and you don't feel that ugly stage, at some point in your career as an artist, you will feel that ugly stage. You will get upset. You will think that, oh my gosh, I've lost all of my ability and this painting is going to be the biggest pile of junk that I've ever put out and no one's going to buy artwork from me ever again. No, that's not the case. Don't worry. It's just a stage. Put a few more hours into it, analyze it, go back to your fundamentals, right? Probably one of the very first things is you ask is, okay, how are my values? Do those match with what I'm looking at? Does it describe the form well? How can I change up things so the form is described in a better way, right? Is my drawing correct? What about my my hues? Are my hues close to where they need to be? All these kind of things that you can ask yourself about what you're working on to send you in a direction to get out of that ugly stage. But the most important thing is just to be patient. Be patient. Oh, I didn't take pictures yet. Be patient. Keep working it. It can come around. And that's why I kind of said at the beginning of this talk that, working in a detailed manner really feels like a lot of the time that it's just, a time game. How much time that I spend on it equals how detailed it looks, how good it looks in a lot of ways. Good is very subjective. I've always felt that if you gave me enough time, I could make any painting look like any photo or anything you put in front of me. Like exactly like it, down to the most minute detail. If I spend enough time on it, that'll happen. And if that's what you're going for, which is totally cool, just spend more time. right? I think the hardest thing to do is when you're going for, describing something as simple as possible, and it's so necessary to get all of your strokes, every paint stroke, just down almost perfectly. Sometimes that feels like, the hardest thing ever, more than just detail, because it takes that action and each action to work perfectly, right? But for now, just keep working on your painting. Don't get too frustrated. Go back to your fundamentals and put more time into it. It'll come around, okay? It'll come around. But don't work on it forever as well, too. I mean, there's a balance here. I've said this before. I mean, you could work on a painting for, 9 years straight, like you and Uglo did. But does it make a better painting? Maybe. Maybe you could be a better painter if within those, however long it took, you did, 7 or 8 paintings. That's something you have to decide for yourself. I know for me, I'm definitely a better painting when I can iterate through multiple paintings within, working on certain aspects of painting itself. Instead of trying to work on simplicity with one painting for 2 months, I'd rather do 40 paintings within those 2 months that focuses on simplicity within brushwork and different subject matter, and see how I do. I've done that before, and I've improved by leaps and bounds by doing the iterative approach. But anyway, I'm rambling again. Thank you so much for watching my videos. Check out my website. All the paintings that I do are for sale on my website, chrisbevan.com. It's linked in the description. And thank you so much for watching. I will see you on the next video. Bye-bye.